Veterinary medicine is a messy business, both physically and emotionally. Vetsplaining is one veterinarian's attempt to explain and understand her own profession a little better. Join Dr. Lisa McFaddin as she delves deep into the medical and business aspects of veterinary medicine. Welcome back, and today I had the honor of sitting down with Dr. Susan Hopper. She is a clinical director for Petwell Partners, and we're going to learn all about her professional journey and how it led her to working for Petwell, and what she's learned along the way about herself as a veterinarian and her passion for leadership.
I'm Susan Hopper, and I'm a clinical director with Petwell Partners. I've been in this position since February of this year. And let's see, life before Petwell Partners. So I joined Petwell Partners after 25 years of being in practice. Started off after vet school working in mixed animal practice after graduating from Texas A&M. And found out that the mixed animal practice that I was in really didn't have much of a future. And my now husband found us a clinic to purchase in Georgetown, which is where I grew up, Texas, just north of Austin. And we purchased that, owned that for 10 years. He decided at that point he wanted to work in industry. Clinical practice was not something that was fulfilling him. And we moved to Kansas City for 2 years. I did relief work and then moved back to Central Texas to where we currently live, which is Liberty Hill, just a little bit northwest of Austin. And I worked in a small animal practice there for 12 years, going up the ranks from operations manager to medical director. And then I found Petwell Partners.
And how did you know you wanted to move from more clinical to more leadership?
So that's a really great question. I think a lot of our lives, the universe takes us where we're supposed to go. And having been a owner of a practice, there was a natural tendency for me when I was an associate to try to insert myself into leadership roles. And I had the opportunity when we were purchased to take more of an active role because when we were sold by the private owner and purchased by a corporation, we suddenly didn't have an owner, and that was completely there all the time. We had an owner that owned part of the corporation, and that changed, and through various amalgamations, I had more and more opportunity to become involved. And I was really enjoying that. Those days that I would have meetings, which sounds really kind of boring, but the days I'd have meetings and opportunity to do training with my front desk staff, we call them CSRs, client service representatives, or CCRs, client care representatives, or train my technicians. And that could be anything from how to look at a urinalysis to how to run a room more efficiently and effectively. I was really feeling those were days that I was receiving a lot more of an emotional paycheck, is a term I'm borrowing from a really smart doctor I worked with. And I realized one day that what could I do to make every day that fulfilling? And that's when I started looking for opportunities.
And so how's it going transitioning from, because you were part managerial or part leadership, part clinical, and now it's just all leadership.
Right. And probably about 75% of my job was supposed to be clinical. And as you know, as a medical director, one can't say, okay, I'm wearing my medical director hat today, I'm not being clinical. It's interspersed. There's a time you may say, hey, I really want an hour to have this task. Well, then a client calls, or there's an emergency, or you just never know. And there's challenges with that. There's challenges with the balance. There's challenges with, the staff feeling like, oh, I can't bother them, or oh, they have their medical director hat on, or they have their clinical hat on, whatever that looks like. That's been a challenge for me, to change from many aspects. To really answer your question, it's, on the one hand, I've been so busy that I haven't had a lot of time to think about the change, and to miss it. I do enjoy, there's nothing better than seeing that pet go from ill to well, and walking out the door, and having a family happy, and having the pet happy. There's nothing better than that feeling. So I do miss that. I miss the mental gymnastics of working up a case and the excitement that goes along with it. I don't miss the downside, of course, when cases don't go well, especially when people can't either afford, or they think they can't afford to do treatment, or they can't do the treatment for whatever aspect. I certainly don't miss that. One of the biggest challenges for me is I'm really detail oriented. I think you and I share that. We love our lists, and we love to check the box, and we get a sense of accomplishment from that. The clinical director job is one that there are fewer defined tasks, and those tasks change, and it's harder to realize that one task is complete, because it's all about creating relationships and helping people and supporting them. And when does that job ever end? It really doesn't. There's nothing finite to that. So that's been one of my biggest challenges, is having that change of mindset from the clinical to the support role.
And what's your favorite part so far about moving more into the leadership role? Like being able to focus on it solely?
Yeah, I really enjoy, what gives me, again, that emotional paycheck is when someone calls me with something that they're dealing with. It could be something clinical, or something that they want help with from a training aspect, or from perhaps there's an interpersonal issue. And I find my greatest joy is when I hear in their voice that I've helped them. It's similar to when that pet walks out the door healthy. It's that similar emotional paycheck of, I've helped make someone's day better through my role.
And I know we've talked since you started that it's kind of been this, Petwell restructured and created these more support roles, but they kind of have left it slightly open-ended as far as what exactly your definition of your role is. And you've been in the position since February.
Uh-huh.
February. Okay. So it's been 6 months, which is crazy.
Yeah. Time flies.
Exactly. How has it kind of molded? Like, I know, when you first start, it's hard, because you're basically representing all of the veterinarians from 14 practices, correct?
Correct. Yep.
And so you are our primary line of, not primary line of defense, but like our lead champion, I guess, as far as when talking to other members of Petwell.
Right. I like that word. I do feel like I want to champion. I want to be a voice, an intermediary, a line of communication. And yes, I believe it was done intentionally, that there would be some gray area or some vagueness, and that we would create these roles. My creation may look different than Robin Paddock in one of the other prides, which is what we call our group of clinics. And I think every person will bring something different to the role. Like I said, I'm pretty detailed. I love structure and I love details, and other people may have other skills that they bring to the table. And that's the beauty part of it, is that we can support each other, and that we'll have various people within Petwell to go to for their skills. Team-based leadership versus me and myself and I have a team between the operation managers and the operation directors. My other clinical director, hopefully we'll have a third soon. And hopefully that answers your question. I feel like I diverted.
No, diversions are always good. And to be honest, I don't really remember my question.
I think it was something about how the position morphed and yes. Okay. So yes, to actually try to answer your question. Yes, and I think it's going to continue to do so. And that's one of the challenges, and something that I'm trying to embrace is getting out of my comfort zone. Is that there is not a hard and fast, this is what the job is, this is what it's going to be. We are creating that, and that is something that I'm trying to embrace as something that is something I've never done before. And what an opportunity to create this position. And yes, I'm not always going to do it in the best way possible. I'm going to learn from that, and hopefully everyone else will, to borrow one of our core values, lend grace and give me the opportunity to have feedback from everyone. And let's create this position that benefits all of our doctors, not just the medical directors, the associates, the new graduates, the selling doctors. And how can I change and grow as a person and help you all in your roles, and take what I've learned as a medical director, the good, the bad, the ugly, and help you all along your journey. That's how I'd like to say that the role is going to change. And it's probably never going to not change, because we're always going to have new people with various needs and that are on different stages of their own journeys.
And I'm sure it's hard, because you and I, we're both very structured as far as like kind of linear thinking and organization.
Yep. Love it. Yes.
And even like you describing a position that doesn't have a structure, like, makes my eye twitch.
Yes. Yes.
So I have to commend you for, taking that leap, just because it's got to be stressful to like figure it out as you go, and just kind of, see where the cards land.
Well, thank you.
Oh,
yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, thank you.
But also, like, I feel like when you come into a role like this, right, like you've kind of run the gamut as far as being a veterinarian, right? Like, you've been relief, you've been an associate, you've been an owner, you've been basically a medical director. And I'm sure you have, like, in your mind, the things you want to hit as a clinical director, like, these are the areas of support I want to provide, these are the topics I want to discuss, this is what I want to do. But then mixed with that is you come in, you meet all these practices for the first time. You got to hear all the stories of all the veterinarians, and you have to like non-emotionally look at these clinics and say, all right, they're made up of people who work really hard. Here are the deficiencies, or here are the areas that we can improve upon. Here are the areas that we're excelling. Right. And it's got to be hard to like prioritize almost, because it's like, as a whole, you want to help everybody. Like, I'm gesturing and you can't see me because the video is not right. But like, as a whole, like, on one hand, you want to help us as like a group, but on the other hand, you have 14 individual hospitals where you have to equally represent the doctors and the practice.
Right. Yes. And so there's that. Yes. There's the support of the doctors. There's the support of the practice, right? Yeah, it is. And the song "Let It Go" comes to mind. Let it go, because there is, and yes, I hear what you're saying. We all have that urge as people who are, the personality type directors. Myers-Briggs, I'm really heavy on the TJ. I have a feeling you might be too. We have a tendency to want our agenda to take over. And that's something that I'm very mindful of, that I need to come from a place of servant leadership, is another term that I'll borrow, that I need to have that team mentality where I have the team of you and your practice manager and your staff. I have a team of my operation managers. I have my team with our senior leadership team at the home office, and all those teams are so important, and we all bring something to the